While players like Brandon Marsh and Alec Bohm have thrown their hat in the ring as well, the bullpen has climbed to the biggest concern within this current Phillies team. This issue was put on full display during the 11-inning walk-off loss at the hands of the Atlanta Braves last night that took place following the nearly 3-hour rain delay. However, in the midst of that game, there was a bright spot as Jordan Romano teased to be the player the Phillies intended on signing this offseason and opened up after the game about something that Phillies fans should be thrilled about. Going to dive into exactly what that is, talk about the state of the bullpen, and give a little bit of flowers to Rob Thomson for some of the decision making. We did see Alec Bohm move down in the lineup last night down to the seventh hole, which is the lowest spot in the order he has hit since 2023. I do give Rob Thomson some credit for that, but do want to talk about everything that went down in that game. Before I do just that, do want to remind you guys once again to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. That at this point in time, just 37.4% of you guys watching these videos have subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet. The season is now in full swing. We're off a disappointing, I would say, series loss to the Braves, one that I felt like should have gone different and could have been a real kick them while they're down moment, but ultimately the job was not done. Now, to get into the topic of today, I do primarily want to talk about Jordan Romano. Now, it has not been the hottest start to his tenure with the Phillies. The production has not been there. Rob Thomson even going as far as theorizing, quote, I don't know if it's a kind of dead arm issue or what, but he just has not looked like the guy that he's expected. Now, granted, the bullpen has been a point of concern coming into this offseason. Now, we know the decision that was made electing to let guys like Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez go. And by the way, Jeff Hoffman looking quite good in those Toronto Blue Jays threads up here. We got a tweet out from the Blue Jays account saying, that's our closer, 2 innings, 0 hits. And a little comment below that I think showcases the state of both of these teams, saying, guy's an absolute dog. The move to replace Romano with him is looking more and more brilliant one by Atkins. What an effort tonight. He saved our asses. And that is the Jeff Hoffman story. We saw that on full display. And kind of interesting that these teams did swap closers, both with some fairly notable injury concerns to their name. That is one thing that has complicated my opinion on the Jeff Hoffman process here. I was very 10 toes down firm on he needs to be back in a Phillies jersey. But the fact that he scared off 2 different MLB organizations for signing him due to red flags with his medicals did give me a little bit of pause there. But granted, he has delivered thus far. We'll see how he holds up over the length of the season. Now, to reflect on last night, the overall box score from a pitching perspective, once again, it was an 11-inning loss, extra innings there. It was Jesus Luzardo who started things off, pitched very well. Another gutsy performance from it. Didn't feel like he was completely locked in and on from the opening performance there. He did allow a run in the first inning. It was a ground out to first that ultimately, with 1 out, the runner was able to score there and then really buckled down beyond that. Thought the slider was working again, got 6 strikeouts, and pitched the entirety up until the rain delay there. Then coming out of the rain delay, we get 1 inning pitch from Carlos Hernandez there. Looked solid. That I thought, that was probably the best that I've seen him pitch to this point. Still a guy that I have my questions about, but the 2 strikeouts, and it looked like he was working it. He had control, had 11 strikes in those 16 pitches there, and the ERA went down pretty significantly. I believe he was in the 23s before last night, so he needed that one. Jordan Romano then stepped in, and this is really the story of this video here. A scoreless inning in which he looked fairly dominant there. 12 pitches, 10 of them strikes, and had movement on him. And now what excited me the most about this was what was said after the game. And what exactly it was is Jordan Romano said before the game he thinks the Phillies found a mechanical issue to explain his recent drop in velocity. He sounded confident it will return. The fastball averaged 95.9 miles per hour, touched 96.9 miles per hour in a scoreless 8th inning. And it is a little bit fitting and funny to me that we're starting to see the resurgence of Jordan Romano in a, 8th inning of a game taking place at midnight on the East Coast that I doubt very many people were watching, but I was really encouraged with his performance last night. Felt like there was bite to his pitches in the first time that we've seen that in a Phillies uniform. That is a direct, difference maker when you see that difference in velocity there. That he was kind of sitting around 94, 93 during his opening opportunity with this Phillies team. Not what you want to see, and just that subtle uptick in the velocity and the power you're throwing with makes a huge difference in how it is coming into hitters. And he has a guy that does have some dance on his ball, that when he throws it, it's got a little bit of movement there, and that gets overemphasized when it is ratcheted up to a higher pace there. So that is a huge deal right there. Have no clue what exactly this could mean, if this is a release point, if this is something that what exactly they're onto with Romano. I did not notice anything in particular when watching it live last night, but I didn't exactly have my eye out for that until seeing this quote here. So curious exactly what that is, but regardless, this is a huge thing that the Phillies essentially, when looking at their bullpen as a whole, I don't think they're as shorthanded as maybe as it seems, and especially when you factor when we get to a playoff setting that we're likely to have guys like Ranger Suarez and Jesus Luzardo in the bullpen. Suarez, I guess, a little bit of a different case, as I do say a world where they end up trading him at the deadline, but do hope that is not the world that we live in here, as I do want Ranger to remain a Philly as long as possible. But when speaking about the bullpen overall, we know what we got from a left-hand perspective. A guy like Matt Strahm, who pitched very well again last night, Alvarado, who's looked terrific to this point, and by the way, to give a quick acknowledgement of the other pitchers that did pitch following Romano. It was a scoreless inning for Strahm with 2 strikeouts. Tanner Banks, a really strong performance last night. 14 pitches, 9 of them strikes, scoreless inning, got through it. And then Joe Ross was the guy that stepped in to let in the walk-off home run. Did not take long. He did not look like he had anything from the second that he stepped on the mound there. Pretty quick tie-up of the game. I believe he let in a double on the first hit there. I think Matt Olson hit that one, and then the walk-off home run immediately following after. So disappointing on the part of Joe Ross, and that kind of brings us into this conversation. The two high-leverage notable addition arms for the Phillies this offseason, it was Romano and it was Joe Ross. Now, both these guys have a little bit of different outlooks and concerns here. For Joe Ross, this is a dude who hasn't really found his footing for what exactly his role is, that he spent some time pitching as a starting pitcher, being like the long inning reliever, being a guy that has pitched some high leverage opportunity as well. For Romano, it goes more from the injury side of things. But point blank period, they need one of these guys to look like a commanding, high leverage, capable pitcher, a guy that can step up and pitch those big time innings. They need one of these guys to grab that horse. What the Phillies do have currently, I mentioned the left-handers with Strahm and with Alvarado. Those guys are dudes that you can feel confident in, that have done it on the biggest stage for this Phillies team already. On the right-handed side of things, Orion Kirkring, still confused why he was not the guy to ultimately be sent in this game. And this was, have a chance to win the game. That if there was that 1-2-3 inning, that the Phillies had taken a lead at this point in the game. Kirkring should have been the guy, and Rob Thomson said after the game he was unavailable because he pitched yesterday. Well, so did Joe Ross. So I don't exactly understand the stance here. I get it's extra innings. I get you're trying to squeeze that out, but that was a winnable series and one that I think Rob Thomson threw in the towel a little bit too early. Now, with that being said, Joe Ross still needs to pitch better and be the guy, but it's kind of frustrating. This is now back-to-back opportunities that we've seen Joe Ross get a chance at these high-leverage stages, this an inning, an opportunity to perform for this Phillies team, and he's coming up short now. So this was a guy that I was ready to bump up into, starting to be in that consideration, and now I think you got to shut that door pretty quick here. But Romano will be the positive takeaway. That is a guy who I'm not going to say has earned another chance at it, but he will get one throughout the season. That there will be nights that is how the cards play out, and I'm encouraged that if that velocity can stay in that same way, maybe he can be the guy. Can Jordan Romano be the second best right-handed arm on this Phillies team? That is the question that we want to answer. And if that is the goal, that's one I think he can accomplish. That if he can fill that lane right there, that's something important on this Phillies team. And I do hope that this mechanical fix is exactly what the lever is hit. Now, I know I've talked plenty about the bullpen and plenty about my frustration with Rob Thomson here. If we're going to be directly honest, a larger storyline and why the Phillies did lose this series is they went 4 for 27, a 148 batting average with runners in scoring position, and left 29 runners on base during the Braves series. That really is the larger story for why they did fall in the loss column there. But nonetheless, that is something we got to keep our eye on. That is a notable storyline with this team. Castellanos having bases loaded last night was one that jumps to mind. Bases loading, having a chance to drive guys in, 2 outs there, full count, the full stage, and unable to deliver. But there were a lot of those opportunities there. So the timely hitting certainly has not been something I would throw in the strengths for this Phillies team during the early part of the season. Something to keep that eye on as well. Still a lot of baseball left to be played, but I'm going to leave here a little bit more encouraged. So one more time to reflect on that exact update for Romano here, that he said before the game he thinks the Phillies found a mechanical issue to explain his recent drop in velocity. He sounded confident it would return. The fastball averaged 95.9 miles per hour and touched 96.9 miles per hour in a scoreless 8th inning. Really refreshing after the dude was sitting around 94, 93 earlier in the week even. So very excited that this is the case there, and hope this is the turnaround, the start of the Jordan Romano era in Philadelphia. But nonetheless, it is coming after a loss. Kind of a sour taste after that, dropping 2 of 3 of the Braves here. But the Phillies are back in action tonight as usual. Hopefully can get back in the hump, and maybe a nice long outing from Aaron Nola tonight, as we can kind of let some of these bullpen arms rest up a little bit. But But let me know what you guys think in the comments, your thoughts on both Joe Ross and Jordan Romano. Do you have any sort of confidence that one of these guys could be high leverage guys? Are you out on Joe Ross completely after the walk-off last night? And how encouraged are you by that type of performance from Romano? Drop all those thoughts below. And once again, do a reminder, guys, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Once again, 62.6% of you guys watching this videos have not subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet. So let's keep this Digest family growing. Appreciate you guys for tuning in this video here. We'll be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.